In the fall of 2007, I was asked to lead my dream expedition, a 30-day mountaineering and trekking expedition with a group of students in the Himalaya mountains of India. But like most wilderness expeditions, this one wasn't without some adversity. Some days it got so cold and our hands were so cold that we actually had to pee on them to warm them up so we could use our zippers. I don't really recommend getting that cold. Some of the adversity was, let's say, temptation. This is not the weeds in your grandmother's garden. I guess you can guess what their Facebook profiles were when they got home. I'd like to introduce you to Dave. Dave is a phenomenal student from New York. He was a natural leader. He was always at the front of the pack, and he was loving the expedition. One day, towards the end of the expedition, Dave went to get water for his tent group. As he took his first step, he slipped, and he slid all the way down to the bottom. Most of all, he heard a loud crack. This was Dave's leg. He screamed for 20 minutes trying to get our help. None of us could hear him because of the sound of the drainage. We could hear some moaning in the camp, but we could not hear his help, his cry for help. How many people here have ever been trained for something they hope they never have to do? Yeah, I bet you a bunch of you. I've been trained in first aid for 15 years, over 15 years. I'd never had to deal with a broken bone. And at this point, I was blessed and amazed and humbled by our team and how well they came together. Everybody took on a role selflessly. Some people were making soup in camp. Some people were giving us their sleeping bags. Some people were holding traction on Dave's leg. They had no idea what they were going to be up to on this trip. It was an incredible experience. Fortunately, we had a relationship with the American Embassy. They vouched for us. And the next morning, we were expecting a helicopter at 7 o'clock. This was the valley it happened in. At night, this is what the valley looked like. When we woke up in the morning, we could have never imagined what we would see. That night, it snowed 3 feet. Fortunately, by about 10:30, the clouds started to break, and I was on the satellite phone with the helicopter pilots, and they said, "We're coming in anyway. We think we got a weather window." It had been going on for 19 hours at this point. Davis had this bone sticking out of his leg. This is the helicopter coming in over the mountains. That's our tent right there. One thing we forgot to do was stake down our tent when we moved it away from the landing area. Fortunately, the helicopter goes over the tent, and it does manage to rip the tent and break a tent pole, but we kept the tent staked down. It wasn't going anywhere. At this point, I buried my head in the snow, and I actually cried. I'd never cried on an expedition. It was just a complete release of emotion. I was so happy that Dave was getting out of the mountains, but I think I was more overcome how this team kicked into gear and relied on each other to get Dave out of the mountains safely. It was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. When you're faced with adversity, you need to rely on your team. We can do so much on our own in the face of adversity, but we can do so much more with our team. When you're faced with adversity, ask for help from your team. Thank you.